Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Reading a Cast. I'm Hannah, and in today's episode, the lady in waiting, Lady Susan Hussey, has resigned from her position following an accusation of racism. Give this video a big thumbs up, comment your ideas down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and share with all of your friends. So according to the Sky Report, Lady Susan Hussey has left her role at Buckingham Palace after she asked a black visitor where she really came from. Ngozi Fulani, the chief executive of Sister Space and a prominent advocate for survivors of domestic abuse, described the exchange as a violation. Strong language coming from Ngozi Fulani. Before we even go into my opinions, before I give you anything I have to say about this, we are going to go through all of the details of the event and we're going to apply critical thinking, because we're critical thinkers. In case you haven't caught the theme of this channel, we are free thinkers on the Free Thinker Cast. We're called the Free Thinker Cast because we critically think. So this is the account of Ngozi Fulani. This is what she said. This is how she said the exchange went. Lady SH, where are you from? Me. Sister Space. I'm joking. No, where do you come from? Me. We're based in Hackney. No, what part of Africa are you from? Me. I don't know. They didn't leave any records. By the way, just imagine being that unsociable, by the way. Where are you from? I don't know. When you colonized us, you didn't leave any records. Well, you must know where you're from. I spent time in France. Where are you from? Me. Here, UK. Not very good English for a national. Anyways, no, but what nationality are you? I'm born here and I'm British. No, but where do you really come from? Where do your people come from? My people? Lady, what is this? Oh, I can see I'm going to have a challenge getting you to say where you're from. When did you first come here? Lady, I'm a British national. My parents came here in the 50s when, oh, I knew we'd get there in the end. You're Caribbean. No, lady, I'm of African heritage, Caribbean descent, and British nationality. Oh. This is such a comical interaction. I don't know if you're reading it the same way I read it. Maybe I just see things more colourful than they actually are. But when I first read this account, I immediately said, this is one-sided. This is incredibly one-sided. We only have one side of the story. And I think it's really important to uphold the notion that you're innocent until proven guilty, considering that is the bedrock of a democratic society. Regardless of your allegiance that you might have to your people, you might want to stand up as a black person and defend another black person who's made an accusation of racism. It still is just that, an accusation. And until we have some type of verification of this interaction, only then can we, I guess, formulate a conclusion. But until then, it's speculation. Until then, it's just her opinion. And in fact, what you'll find is there's a recent report that I just read today that she didn't want the lady to resign, the lady in waiting to resign. She didn't want the lady in waiting to resign. She thought that was a bit harsh herself. She thought that was harsh herself. So Lady Susan Hussey served as Queen Elizabeth's lady in waiting. She did that for about 60 years. She's actually the godmother of Prince William, and she was made the godmother of Prince William. No, sorry, she was appointed lady in waiting just after Prince Andrew was born. So she's had very strong connections in the royal family for a very long time. This is a high profile resignation. This is really important, considering this was predicated solely based off of a claim and there was no evidence to back this. She didn't even defend herself, right? So if you look at the palace response said it was deeply regrettable and unacceptable. This is what the palace said about it. Her resignation doesn't necessarily indicate that she's guilty. The palace probably just wants to dissociate in any possible way from any further tarnishing to their reputation, because I don't think it's possible to. But anyways, Harry and Meghan have destroyed it almost entirely with their royal tirade over in the States. The fastest thing for the royal to do is just to cut her off entirely. Either she chose it and she took it upon herself to resign, or she was encouraged by the palace because they didn't want to stain their reputation any further. So just because she resigned, it doesn't necessarily mean that she was guilty. It could just mean that she just wanted to prevent the royal family from receiving any more criticism than they already had, and any type of affiliation to the Lady of Hussey, the lady in waiting, Lady Susan Hussey, would only damage their reputation further. I think it's really important to uphold the notion that someone's innocent until proven guilty, for the very fact that Emmett Till, if we've forgotten already, was a black boy that was beaten to death based off an accusation of a white lady. So a common criticism that I will receive for not wanting to assume that everything is overtly, inherently evil and racist is, Hannah, why are you always trying to defend white people? Why are you just trying to suck up to white people? what you'll find is that this is actually nothing to do with white people, and it's nothing to do with black people. This is to do with the fact that people are losing their jobs, their reputations are being permanently stained and damaged based off of unverifiable claims and unverifiable accusations. I mean, the palace barely defended themselves in the peak of the Meghan Markle controversy, when Meghan Markle and Harry said that there were concerns and conversations about the colour of Archie's skin. The most that the royal said in that situation was that some recollections may vary. The palace have notoriously not wanted to defend themselves. It could just mean they want to minimize the press. So we have to do the critical thinking on our behalf, and we need to apply the skepticism, because there have been situations where there'll be high profile resignations, scholarships being rescinded, opportunities ripped from boys because of an accusation of sexual assault. When I see black men supporting this resignation, I must remind you, black men, that it wasn't long ago that a black boy, Emmett Till, was brutally beaten because of an accusation of a white lady. And it wasn't until until she was on her deathbed that she confessed that her account wasn't true. It's one of the reasons I hate group thinking within the black community. I hate this whole, oh, well, she was black, why don't you side with her? How about I think for myself? How about I'm a free thinker? How about I'll apply skepticism to any and everybody's claims? And for you to tell me that I shouldn't apply skepticism to somebody's claims, you're telling me to dumb down a little bit because of my skin color. You're telling me to not question things because I'm black. You are telling me to be stupid. You're telling me to just believe anything that I'm told. I'm not a child. I'm an adult now. Yes, I pay my own phone bill and I sign my emails off with yours sincerely. A lot has changed. Not to mention the possibility that some of these claims could be exaggerated, because we have seen instances in the past, like with Jussie Smollett, where he fabricated claims of, I got there in the end, of racism for, some people say, publicity. He wanted a promotion. He wanted to be more high profile. We live in an attention-seeking society. People are desperate for attention. People just want attention. It could be that these claims were entirely exaggerated. Right, I don't think that this exchange didn't happen, but it's likely that something was fabricated, because even when you read the account, you're just thinking, this has clearly been inflamed on one side, and the other one's just thinking this is a regular conversation, and the other one's taking deep offense to this. How could this happen? Well, I would point you to snowflake culture. I would point you to the fact that nobody can even have conversations with anyone anymore without having to tiptoe around the thought police, have to tiptoe around the people who decide when everything is racist, every question, every phrase, every remark, every word. I mean, it's every other week that we're deconstructing a new word that we can't use on Meghan Markle's podcast. Archetypes, diva, we can't say crazy, we can't say anything, right? And that's just the category of women. There's also the category of things that you can't say to black people. There's a category of people you can't say to people who are disabled. There are a category of things you can't say to people who are trans. There are so many categories. It's like you have to go to school. You need to get a whole new qualification of things to remember you can't say, because your entire life will be destroyed as a result of it. That's why celebrities go through media training, how to manage the media, how to control these things. And this is basically compliance training for celebrities. They have to comply with the narrative of the liberal agenda before they can ever be adored in the masses and receive that love from people and get the record contracts and the deals and the Netflix deals. They have to go through media training in order to do that. This will be classed under like microaggression. It's a microaggression to ask black people where they're really from. And if you haven't heard of what microaggressions were, thank goodness. You're so lucky. You're lucky that you can live in a bubble away from all of this insanity, but it's important that you know about this. Microaggressions are basically classifications of words and sayings and things that apparently have underlying tones of misogyny, racism, and homophobia that are undetectable to anybody on a surface level, because absolutely that would be nobody's intent, generally speaking, to be a horrible racist or a bigot or a homophobe or anything like that. But because of how you interpreted it, or how they're teaching you to interpret it in these microaggression sociology indoctrination lessons in school, you take personal offense. So what a word for that we have is actually called emotivism, and that's when you attribute context to anything that somebody else says within a different context. It doesn't matter what they meant. What matters is how you felt. And this is why it's so dangerous, because now it's literally led to the resignation of a lady in waiting that served the royal family for 60 years. This is a high profile resignation, and if they're attacking people at the top, best believe they're going to attack you at the bottom. Best believe that the average Joe working in an average corporate job on an average wage is at a much greater risk than, say, a lady in waiting. This is really important that I cover this story for the very fact that it is an attack on democracy. Lady in waiting isn't going to defend herself because of things like loyalty to the palace, and she's probably going to see it as important that, you know, for her respect for the royals and the close connection she's had with that family, that she just don't explain. Don't explain, don't complain. That's the adage, come from Benjamin Disraeli, adopted by all the royals, and is their kind of guiding principle to this day. Don't explain, don't complain, and let this fizzle out eventually, because it will, and it might do more harm than good for her to justify her actions and provide a substantial response. I think this was blown beyond proportion. Like in the case with Jussie Smollett, things can be blown beyond proportion. Well, that was entirely fabricated, but things can be blown beyond proportion for things like publicity, for things like attention. In fact, we know that Ngozi Fulani has said that she didn't want the lady in waiting to resign. I think it was very careless of her to make these claims, thinking that there weren't going to be serious ramifications of that later down the line. There is a narrative that is being fueled. So for her to just be like, I'm making these claims of racism against the lady in waiting, but I don't want her to resign. I don't actually want that to happen. Okay, so why did you say that then? What did you think? Most people resolve conflict interpersonally. Most well-meaning people who actually want to see change and actually want to make the world a better place, if you actually are about tolerance and inclusivity and education and inclusion, right? Instead of having a Black History Month where it's 1 month we worship black people, how about when people say things that might be culturally or racially insensitive, you approach that person on an individual level and you respect them enough as a human being to maybe just say, hey, I don't agree with what you said. I think that maybe what you said was a little bit insensitive. And then, based off of that person's response and how you take that person's response and willingness to kind of cooperate, then you should maybe seek a higher power. If this is like in a workplace scenario or something, and your colleague has said something offensive and you confronted them, but they don't actually change or they don't actually have any remorse, then maybe go to HR, maybe go to management, whatever. Okay, and you can escalate that accordingly. However, in this case, it seems to be that there was no attempt to resolve this on an interpersonal level, on an individual level. There was no effort from Ngozi Fulani to maybe confront the lady in waiting respectfully and just say, you know, that wasn't kind of you, or this is where you're wrong. Because the only thing we have is that little dialogue. That's all we have. We don't know about any attempts to resolve the conflict. We don't know about anything. And it's likely that didn't even happen. Instead, she ran straight to the press. You didn't want the lady in waiting to resign? Okay, so why didn't you just have a conversation with her? You wanted the publicity. You wanted the attention. You wanted maybe the profit that can come off of making a claim like this against a high-ranking senior royal. I don't know where this defense for the royals came from. Damn, my whole channel's just been royal family content for a hot minute, because these guys uphold tradition. These guys are the glue, and the more attacks on this royal family is more attacks on what is a cultural adhesive for this society. And when these claims of racism and these unsubstantiated claims of racism manage to pervade even the very apolitical institution that has adhered this country from losing their bloody minds together, it is a threat on democracy, because her claims were taken as unequivocal truth. However, I, on the other hand, as a free thinker, on the Free Thinker Cast, subscribe if you haven't already, will not blindly believe that every claim of racism that is made is unequivocally true. And like an ounce of critical thinking, especially after she came out and said, I wish she didn't resign, has allowed for me to even see that this interaction wasn't that deep. And for the Americans watching, if something's not that deep, oh no, you did say that in America, my bad. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. And it's been blown way beyond proportion. all based off an accusation. Black men who are rejoicing that this woman has resigned, I hope you know that another woman can make an accusation of sexual assault and everything that you ever worked for will be taken away from you. Imagine being a proponent of the same whimsical ideologies, the same whimsical thinking that can result in your own self-destruction and your own self-indictment as a man. And you are not being a free thinker. Subscribe and we can get this out of you. It's okay. So for those of you who don't know, a lady in waiting is a woman attending a female member of the royal family and is usually responsible for accompanying them on public engagements and helping them complete tasks. I didn't know these people existed. Like I said, I've only recently been getting into all of this royal family stuff. Like my whole channel has been royal family content for a very long time. The Queen had at least 5 ladies in waiting during her reign, and that obviously one of the closest ones she had was Lady Hussey. Once the left has seized every word, every phrase, every question, every remark that you could possibly make within an innocent context, and inverted it to make it evil, inherently evil, and they've exhausted every word in the vocabulary, eventually even the allies will give up. Even the allies who are like, yeah, Black Lives Matter, will go around and say, hang on a minute, we can't say this word now? We can't say that? We can't even ask you where you come from? We can't even ask you where you come from? I'm British, but even me, I will self-identify as Black British or Eritrean Ethiopian British. Because I don't know if you can tell, but by looking at me, you know, I'm not from Anglo-Saxon descent. I didn't descend from the Normans. I didn't descend from the Irish. So, saying things like Eritrean British, Ethiopian British actually provides the further clarification that is necessary in order to reconcile your outward appearance to your nationality in a way that is completely harmless, but is taken to being deeply hurtful by the radical left. So all the white liberals in the comment section of this post, of this TLDR post, saying, yeah, that's so evil, that's so horrible, that's so horrible. Yeah, well, the black lady actually came out and saying, oh, she shouldn't have resigned. This could have been resolved on an individual level, but she chose not to. This is deceitful, this is wicked, it is dishonest. And you know what's crazy? I'll even do it to my white friends. I'll say, oh, okay, so is there anything else to use? Is it just English or is there Scottish in there? Is it just English or you're Irish or a bit? And they'll say, yeah, I got Scottish in me. My grandfather was Irish and blah, 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 blah. It's small talk! At these events that the Queen hosts, so the Queen Consort hosts, what do you think? Yeah, what else are you going to talk about? The weather? These are the easiest conversations to have. These are formerly some of the most easiest conversations for people to have. Where do you come from? And now we can't even ask that. This is why you need to stand up. This is why that you can't let them tell you what you meant when you know what you meant was harmless. If you ask someone where they're really from and you mean it respectfully, you shouldn't allow for them to tell you that was horrible and racist. Well, I didn't mean for it to be just you're British, yeah, but you're also something else. What is that something else? Instead, you get spineless liberals that say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that hurt your feelings. I stand with you, I do, I stand with you. Really, I'm an invertebrate and I have no spine, but I stand with you. If you want to be a free thinker, if you want to be in a place where we can, a real safe space, not a safe space like the left knows it, where you can't say anything in the safe space. The real safe space, which is the free thinker cast, where you can think freely and you can criticize freely. You can apply skepticism freely. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. This is what we do on the Free Thinker Cast. Like this video by giving it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel. We're going to do a review on the docuseries that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry released on the 8th of December. I made a video how I'm reactivating my Netflix subscription for this, and I'm really looking forward to it. I will see you shortly.